Police say the gunman in Saturday's mass murder specifically chose Buffalo, New York, because it was the city with the highest number of black people in his vicinity. The top supermarket he chose to terrorize is on Buffalo's east side, where 75% of residents are people of color. The market is a community hub in the historically black neighborhood of Jefferson Avenue. All 10 of the murdered people were black. And while it's impossible to sum their lives up with just a few words, their stories deserve to be heard. There's 55-year-old security guard Aaron Salter Jr., a retired police officer who heroically defended the store by firing at the shooter. Roberta Drury, 32, who had been taking care of her brother in Buffalo for the past 10 years as he recovered from cancer. Ruth Whitfield, who was 86 and had stopped at the store to get something to eat after visiting her husband in a nursing home. Andre McNeil, who was 53, he was there to buy cake for his 3-year-old son. Pearlie Young, who was 77, who ran a pantry feeding people in Buffalo Central Park every Saturday for 25 years. Hayward Patterson, 67, was a driver who was loading groceries for a client when he was shot. And Catherine Massey, 72 years young, who spent her life fighting for her community. Last year, she wrote a letter to the Buffalo News pushing for more regulation of firearms, citing the gut-wrenching escalation of gun violence in Buffalo and many major U.S. cities. The others who lost their lives, Geraldine Talley, 62, Celestine Cheney, 65, and Margus D. Morrison, 52, all innocent people just going to the store on a weekend. With me now is the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, who was born in Buffalo and represented the area for years. Governor Hochul, thank you for being here. I can't imagine how much pain this community is in right now as a Buffalo native. Talk about what the aftermath looks like for the people of your home city.
Thank you for showing the pictures of these people. They're not just a number 10. They're 10 people with personalities and lives that are lost forever. This is my hometown. It's part of my community. I live literally 10 or 12 minutes from this neighborhood. I go back to Buffalo all the time. It is still my home. So these are my neighbors. And this is deeply personal. And people are just searing with pain. I went into my elevator, and I live in a very diverse building. But, you know, black, white, didn't matter the color skin. People are falling in my arms weeping. I mean, there's such anguish in this community right now. And we need to start talking about how we heal. And we're trying to provide resources to people, mental health services. This is now a food desert, by the way. It's an impoverished part of our city. This enormous amount of money dedicated toward rebuilding it in our budget just passed a couple weeks ago. But right now, where are they getting groceries? So I stepped up and made sure that Uber and Lyft could transport people who don't have cars. There's not much public transportation. There's a few buses. Take them to grocery stores. And I can't tell you how many people stepped up. Reverend Al stepped up and said he'd cover, National Action Network would cover the cost of the funerals. So I am so proud of how people outside the community, but particularly in the community, are just giving each other this collective hug because people are in such pain.
Let me ask you, because you mentioned the part about this community being a food desert, and we know that this area was shaped by decades of segregation. And I'm going to read this from the Buffalo News. Almost as soon as the tragedy unfolded, local advocates, Western New York's Emergency Food Network, corporate donors, churches, and TOPS itself began mobilizing to make sure no one in the predominantly black community goes hungry. This is the only store. It was a big deal, and having that hub was super important. We have some video here of something called Community Fridge, which is now gathering food. The fact that this community, because of segregation and the way that redlining keeps businesses out of black communities often, they were already economically on the downside here. What can be done about that core issue? This shouldn't have been a food desert.
I've made this one of my highest priorities because I know this neighborhood. I already spoke to the CEO of Tops Company, whose store was the site of the massacre. He promised to me that they would reopen this store. It's still a crime scene. They have some work to do, but he himself is paying for people to be transported to places they can get food, other grocery stores outside the area. So there is a strong community response, so no one is left behind. But personally, since I know this community, I've been governor since August, I have devoted more money and resources to rebuilding this community. This is one of those communities that to support white flight from the downtown urban core to get people out to the suburbs faster. They divided this with a massive highway. We see this in many cities. Black community divided in half by this asphalt, this exit to leave the city to get away from people. I just dedicated $1 billion to rebuild that and to start putting the seams back together and helping this community. So I'm going to continue as a Buffalo native to focus on the injustices that have been the hallmark of this community for my entire life. As a child growing up here, I saw this. My family helped start a community center in this neighborhood to help people who had nothing. My mother and I used to go visit people in the public housing and give them counseling and support. So I know this community, and I'm, as governor, they did not deserve this. They're innocent, they're hardworking, they're tight-knit, and I'm going to help them heal because that's what I have to do. And I was so proud when President Biden called me yesterday and said, Kathy, what can I do to help? I said, Mr. President, if you came to Buffalo, this part of our community that always feels neglected and overlooked, you come, you're the most empathetic person we've ever had in this position. Please come, and he is coming tomorrow. So I'm really happy about that.
We will be paying attention to that tomorrow as the president comes out to Buffalo. New York Governor Kathy Hochul, thank you very much. Really appreciate you being here. Let's turn now to Darius Pridgeon, Buffalo City Council President and Bishop of the True Bethel Baptist Church. Bishop Pridgeon, I just want to let you talk. Talk about this community where your church is located. This is your community, so tell me about it. What should we know about these wonderful people who lost their lives and this store that was so central?
Well, first of all, thank you for covering this story so in depth. This community is my community. I am not only the president of the Buffalo Common Council, but we all have districts. And so this one is located within my district, the Ellicott district of Buffalo. And I live 2 blocks away from the store. So we go to the store constantly. Even on the day of the massacre, I was on the way to pick up something to put on the grill, and my laziness said, go and just buy something. So I made a right instead of making a left, came back home, and my wife called me as she had just left the house to tell me there was a heavy police presence. This is a tight-knit community. When some people hear about a predominantly African-American neighborhood in the grocery store, immediately some people think of a rundown grocery store with very little food. That's not the case with this grocery store. It is a part of the Tops chain. And as many have said, we fought for this store to be in this community because most stores weren't trying to locate. There's not a lot of national stores that want to locate in a poor neighborhood. And they decided to do that. And so it's a hub. It's a gathering place. It's like the barbershop in the Black community. It's like the hairdresser. People there, they're talking. You see your neighbors. And so we knew everybody in this area kind of knows that they don't know the people who passed. They know somebody, like very tight-knit, who knows somebody. And so in this area, we just never expected that to happen because you don't expect an outsiders. It's like your brothers or sisters. You might fight with your brothers and sisters, but you're not letting anybody else fight your brother or sister. And so that's Tops. That's this area.
I've been, both heartbroken and smiling just reading about the lives of these people. They sounded like they were like the best of this community, people who are volunteering, helping others, and just reading about your community. I mean, it's got its own Apollo sort of version of the Apollo Theater. There's so much rich culture there. This person who I won't even name, who came and shot up this store, talked about in his manifesto that, the goal was to make Black people understand that they will never be safe, that they'll never feel safe, and to try to drive people to voluntarily leave. What do you make of that? And is that something that would ever happen in a strong community like yours?
Well, I think that for a moment in time, he got what he wanted as far as making African Americans feel unsafe in their own community. Today, when my teenage sons left for school, One of them was very concerned, the 13-year-old, about going to school today and what would happen. And, we kind of went back and forth, my wife and I. She said, I want to keep them home. And I said, they're going to school. I took that approach. They got to learn. And then halfway through the day, I felt her heart and sent her, I told her, go get them. So it is, he got the first part for just temporary. But what we do know, and we call Buffalo the city of good neighbors, and the reason we call it because it took somebody to come from outside of Buffalo to do this massacre. It took somebody who, unfortunately, really researched us. If he had researched us as far as who we are as a people, he might have come and moved in our community instead of coming to try to kill, or not try, instead of coming to kill people in our community. So he got a little bit, but he won't get the rest. But he got arrested right away. And, there's people in our community right now who are, feeling like, how did this man make it out of this alive with the weapons he had, with the bodies that were on the ground? But of course, police procedure, he put down the gun when they showed up. But there's some people, just to be frank, who hang around on the corner across the street, who I think if they had known what was going on, this would have been a lot different. So at the end of the day, I'll tell you this, I'm glad he's alive. And I'm glad he's alive so that we can dig into, hopefully, what was going on and who else he knows. I think death was too easy. It kind of gives him a quick out when he needs to sit in prison for the rest of his natural life.
Well, I think, unfortunately, the history of the way that these things happen is that there are certain demographics who almost always survive these situations, whereas innocent young Black men and women sometimes don't even survive being pulled over for a tag on their car. It is part of the problem in this country, and that is me saying that. I will not put that on you. Buffalo City Council President, the Bishop, Darius Pridgen, thank you, sir. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And still ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.